Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 16 of Sports for Beginners, the podcast. My name is Scott McGregor. Well, I'll tell you, that was an interesting draft, an expansion draft in the PWHL. So the question I have is, who else was protected by the Toronto Scepters, Minnesota Frost, Montreal de Victoire, New York Sirens, Ottawa Charge, and of course, the Boston Fleet? We answer that question right now on this special Saturday edition of Sports for Beginners, which begins right now. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. Hi everyone, and welcome to a special Sports for Beginners Saturday on Sports for Beginners. It is episode 16 of season number 4. Our topic of conversation for the episode: protection lists of the PWHL Expansion Draft going into the 2025 PWHL Draft coming up later this month, and a look at the next couple of players joining the teams. PWHL Vancouver, and it's time to defend the deep. PWHL Seattle. So what do these rosters look like? Well, let's take a look at the signing window first before we get into the duration of our show, which will be a look at the expansion draft. Let's start with Vancouver. And let's take a look at their roster. During the signing window, actually, let's just take a look at their roster at its full. Now, they are getting ready for their inaugural season, as is Seattle. And right now, the forwards on both sides, Team Vancouver and, of course, Team Seattle. We'll get a look at Seattle's roster in just a little bit. But before we do, let's get a look at Vancouver's roster. Joining Vancouver from the Minnesota Frost is Brooks McGee. I'll go with Brooks M. or Brooke. Also joining that team, Claire Thompson and Sophie Jacques. From the Ottawa Charge, say hello to Ashton Bell, Emerance Mashmeyer. From the Montreal de Victoire, the PWHL Vancouver roster consists of Abby Boreen, Jen Gardner, in at the forward line. So they only were able to capture 2 members on the forward line of Montreal de Victoire. They have added from the Scepters, Sarah Nurse, and joining Sarah Nurse is Izzy Daniel. From the New York Sirens, give it up for Gabby Rosenthal. And from the Boston Fleet, say hello to Sydney Bard. That is your 2025-2026 roster heading into the preseason for PWHL Vancouver. Over to the Seattle side we go, and beginning with players from the New York Sirens. The Sirens have given to Seattle Jesse Eldridge, Corrine Schroeder, and Alex Carpenter. From Toronto, joining Julia Gosling is Megan Carter. What about from PWHL Montreal de Victoire? Well, a couple of names, most notably Kayla Barnes and Anna Wilgren. We also see the addition of Shiradanchi going into, I'll go with Danielle S. in case I pronounce the name wrong. Sincerest apologies if I pronounce anyone's name wrong. You get those guys, or those girls, I should say. I keep forgetting I shouldn't say guys. I should say girls. That's my bad. Because we're talking PWHL, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. From the Ottawa Charge, say hello to Ayaneta Terazova. Hopefully I got that right. But moving on. So from Toronto, New York, to Montreal to Ottawa. That leaves us with Boston Fleet members. And joining Team Seattle, say hello to Emily Brown and Hannah Bilka, joining Hillary Knight on Team Seattle. Alrighty, so that's a look at the roster for the two clubs. How did they do at the expansion draft? And how did they add the players they added? Well, first of all, before we get to that, let's give you a look at the protection list. Actually, we'll take a break and get to the protection list later. And maybe after that break, we'll also get into the expansion team and the draft itself. But the one thing I will not leave you with, or I will not leave you without before we take the break, as our PWHL All episode continues in a moment. It was revealed on expansion night on Monday, June the 9th, 2025, that Vancouver would receive the honor of getting the first pick of the 2025 and first ever PWHL Expansion Draft. These are the first two teams that get the kick of the can at an expansion draft. How did they do? Who else was protected? By Toronto, Minnesota, Ottawa, New York, and Boston. And don't forget Montreal. Who else was protected? Find out when our Sports for Beginners program continues. This is a special episode 16, of season 4, happening on a Saturday. Back with more in a moment. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment. Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches. Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8:00 p.m. and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to CNT Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait. I think I made it. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time. Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
We continue our coverage now of the PWHL Expansion Draft on episode 16 of season 4. I know I mentioned it was episode 17 early on in our broadcast, but that's okay. Oops, I'm trying to keep myself here from being detached there. Okay, there we go. Hopefully everyone can see me okay. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about the Professional Women's Hockey League, or in short term, the PWHL Expansion Draft. Early on, for a brief recap, we talked about the rosters and where they sit right now for Vancouver and Seattle. As we head into the 2025-2026 preseason, and I just want to remind fans that this upcoming Professional Women's Hockey League season, yes, this upcoming Professional Women's Hockey League season, I just want to let everyone know, in case you don't know already, the following will be happening next season, in case you don't know. Just for those in case you do not know, each team will play a total of 30 games next season, including some games at home, some games on a neutral site probably, and some games on the road. This will total for a number of games at 100 games in the regular season, and a grand total between all 8 teams of 120 regular season games, including games that could be played at neutral sites. All right, I think that's just about a gist of it. Let's talk about the draft itself. I also mentioned that the expansion draft rather, the team that received first overall selection was PWHL Vancouver. More on that, and of course their GM for PWHL Seattle and Vancouver a little bit later. With the first pick of the 2025 PWHL Expansion Draft, PWHL Vancouver went for a defenseman in Ashton Bell to kick things off. They would eventually move to Brooke as a forward of the Minnesota Frost, the champion Frost, with the 4th pick of the expansion draft. But let's not jump picks. So Seattle had the 2nd and 3rd pick. With the 2nd pick of the draft overall, Seattle's first selection was Ayaneta Churz, a defenseman of the Ottawa Charge. So already the Ottawa Charge getting players gone from their rotation quickly. Seattle's 2nd pick of the draft, the 3rd overall, they would select forward Hannah Belka from the Boston Fleet. From here on out, both teams had double the pick, and the 2nd pick of the draft, but the 4th overall, went to Vancouver. And the 2nd pick for Vancouver was forward Brooke, a forward from the defending champion Minnesota Frost. They would then select from the Montreal de Victoire forward Abby Boreen. Now Seattle's on the clock. They have pick number 6 and 7 of the draft. First, they select Jesse Eldridge, forward from the New York Sirens. They follow that up with a forward in Juliet Gosling of the Toronto Scepters coming to Seattle. Next up, it's Vancouver's turn, and their next 2 picks include Izzy Daniel of the Toronto Scepters and Gabby Rosenthal of the New York Sirens. Next up, moving down the list here, Seattle has 2 picks. They would have the last pick in the draft, but they have 2 picks before that, and Vancouver has only 2 more picks now. For Seattle, Seattle will pick Anna Wilgren and Megan Carter. Megan Carter, defenseman of the Toronto Scepters. Anna Wilgren, defenseman of the Montreal de Victoire. Denise Kurasova going to Vancouver, along with Boston Fleet's defenseman Sydney Bard, and of course Denise Kurasova, also from the defending Minnesota Frost's Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost. And last but certainly not least, the Boston Fleet's last selection went to Seattle, and they selected Emily Brown. I'm going to talk about some of these picks that kind of, surprised me. But by the end of the day, all 6 PWHL hockey clubs would be able to have protected 4 players at least. 4 players at least. Now, during the signing window, 2 players from 3 of the 6 teams were protected, including on Minnesota Frost, Kendall Coyne Schofield, Taylor Heisey, Lee Steckline, and Britta C. The Montreal Victoire protected Anne Renee Debian, Mehdi Philippe Poulin, Laura Stacy, and Aaron Ambrose. For the New York Sirens, they are able to protect Sarah Ella Shelton, Mika Zandihart, and Meja Nyland Pearson. The Ottawa Charge are able to protect Emily Clark, Gwyneth Phillips, Ronja Salveini, and Gabby Hughes. Toronto, who do they protect? They protect Renata Fast, Blair Turnbull, Daryl Watts, and Emma Maltese. Now, what about the Boston Fleet? We've gone over the Charge, the Sirens, the Victoire, and the Frost, and of course the Scepters. But who do the Fleet protect? They protected Aaron Frankel, Megan Keller, Lena Mueller, and Shea Maloney. Shea Maloney. I didn't think she was going to be protected. I thought she was going to go for sure. Another player that surprises me that was able to be protected was Aaron Ambrose. But to Montreal's credit and to the credit of the teams selecting right here, I can understand why Aaron Ambrose was able to be protected because, again, as I mentioned, Abby Boreen was one of the selections. But let me just say this. If I'm going in there and I'm going to protect somebody, I'm going to get a chance to protect Abby Boreen if I get an opportunity. I don't care what team she's on. If I have a chance to protect Abby Boreen, I'm going to protect her. But there you go. Your expansion list and your of draft picks and of course your protection list. Now, how is the draft going to go? Well, we know the draft is coming up in the next few days. That is set for June 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern, which is a Tuesday. It will be taking place at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Ottawa, Ontario, just like the expansion draft that is presented by Upper Deck as a sponsor. It will consist of 6 rounds and allow all 8 teams to select eligible players from a pool of talent that includes recent college-educated graduates and or players from other professional leagues. The New York Sirens will be the first team to pick in the 2025 PWHL Draft based on the gold plan system. So since the New York Sirens finished the inaugural season in last place and then they finished last season in last place, they were given the right to pick first in the 2025 PWHL Draft. This means that one of the expansion drafts or one of the expansion teams would have an opportunity to pick first in the second round, but the first round pick will belong to the New York Sirens. I mean, I don't know if that's going to really pay any attention there, but I would say if it's anything close to that, I would say it's going to be Seattle selecting 8th and 9th. Vancouver will get the 7th and 10th selection. Minnesota gets selection number 6 and number 11. Ottawa will get number 5 and number 12. Montreal with pick number 4 and, of course, number 13. And, well, I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work, but the draft order is the Sirens, the Fleet, Scepters, Victoire, Charge, Frost, Vancouver, and Seattle. Now, how about where to watch this show going down on Tuesday, June the 2025? Well, you were able to watch this on the PWHL YouTube channel, regardless of where you may be at. In Canada, in the United States, or elsewhere. Well, you're going to be able to catch this draft itself live on the tsn.ca, TSN, and the TSN app with full draft coverage live on TSN Plus and globally on the PWHL's YouTube channel. Kenzie Lalonde will host the draft alongside analyst Cheryl Pounder and Dave Starman, with report Rob Pizzo interviewing players stage-side following their selections. So there you go. You can watch the action unfold on TSN if you TSN on your provider, or if you have TSN Plus, or perhaps you have an account for TSN, you can watch it then. Or it is going to be globally, so I'm guessing that also means worldwide, so that means you could probably still catch it on the Professional Women's Hockey League YouTube channel. All right, so how do I think both teams did? We'll talk about that next, starting with Vancouver, when Sports for Beginners episode 16 of season 4 continues, and then following that, we will talk about Seattle, and then we'll get into who the GMs are and who the coaches of each team are to close out the show. So how each team I thought did at the expansion draft, what are my expectations for the draft itself at the entry draft? You will find out all of that coming up next. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
What a busy traffic on this Friday evening. I am almost stuck in this traffic for the last 40 minutes. And there is no way, I think, for me to get to the show. The CNT Radio Song Bank, which is going to start very shortly. It's one of my favorite shows. And my, what a way to wind down for the weekend. Perfect 2 hours of fun-filled music. And she has so many great features. Sound of Music, Undercover, Foreign Exchange. Name That Tune. And the big wheel that she spins for Who's That or Where Are We? We cannot forget about the international stage. I have never come across such a great show in my life. I think I will have to press hard on my accelerator and go as fast as I can to get home in time. Wow! Wow! Look! I made it! I am almost there! CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
All right, we were muted there for one moment there, my friend. Sorry about that. Our continuing coverage of episode 16, Sports for Beginners Season 4, continues. So now we know what the rosters look like from the expansion draft and the signing window and all, and yada, yada, yada. Oh, I meant to say this before we began. My name is Scott McGregor. This is Sports for Beginners, the podcast. My name is Scott McGregor. Sorry about that. I meant to say that right at the beginning. I did not. That's my bad. Anyways, we know what the teams look like. We know, okay, so Vancouver has these people on their roster. Seattle has these guys on their roster. But how do we think they did? How do we think they did? Personally, I'm not really sure how I think each team did, but I feel like they both they kind of put on a good show. I think they put on a good show, to be honest. I don't necessarily know what to call it, to be honest, but what I will say is, off of everything that's happened now, leading up to the draft, it looks like we're shaping up for a really interesting PWHL inaugural season for the teams known as Seattle and Vancouver. It looks like we're in for a really interesting season. It looks that way to me. It looks that way to me. Okay. Anyways, I feel both teams did pretty well, and honestly, I think if one team had the edge, it would have to be if one team had the edge. For me, I know Erica and Rachel, I don't know if they would agree with me, and I'm talking about these people who run as co-host of Locked On Philadelphia Flyers, in case I want to make sure I get that right. Rachel Donner, and of course, Erica Lindsay Ayala. We've had her on the show before. Erica, I'm not sure if Rachel or you will agree with me, but I feel like we had a pretty good show from Seattle and Vancouver on both sides of the coin. There wasn't really too many players that stood out as oh my goodness, how did she not get drafted? Or in this case, my goodness, how was she not able to be protected? I guess the only person that I could say is one of the, my goodness, I thought she could have been, protected, was that Abby Boreen and the Aaron Ambrose thing. Don't get me wrong, Rachel and Erica, the protection of Aaron Ambrose, but I thought like Abby Boreen might just find a way to fit in with the Montreal Victoire. Alright, so who are the general managers? We probably could have gone over this a while ago when they were announced, but the first general manager of PWHL Vancouver in the franchise's history is Gardner. She joins the new team, the Vancouver team, as the GM following 14 seasons with Princeton Women's Ice Hockey. And apparently she has a really nice background, definitely around women's hockey. Let's take a look at Megan Turner. Now this is a GM I could get behind. Megan Turner. Okay. She is the general manager of Seattle. So you got Megan Turner and you got Gardner Moray. All right. I hope I have that right. Who knows? I'll probably get it right as we move on. But anyways, speaking of moving on, let's move on to the names of other things that have been put in place here. And in particular, I believe we have a head coach that's been named. I believe there were some head coaches named. I could be wrong, but then again, who's right or wrong these days? Anyways, I haven't been to a game before, but I really am now thinking that we're in expansion points of this. I'm thinking we need to really shine some light on bringing this to life, like we really do. Okay, so no head coach yet has been named for Vancouver, but let's see. I'm pretty sure there was a head coach named for Seattle. I think it's John Tortorella, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, didn't see that one coming, did you? Fun fact, John Tortorella, as luck would have it, used to coach, yes, I say used to coach, the Philadelphia Flyers. If you could believe that. If you can believe that. He used to coach the Philadelphia Flyers. Okay, so obviously the coaches are not yet up on the Vancouver and Seattle area yet. But you know what? That's okay. Because the truth is, we'll get a chance to find out about that over the course of the timeline. But you know, we could just find out whenever they release it, right? All right. Anyways, what are my expectations for the draft? You know, I think, and these are actually expectations for the 2025-2026 season. I think if New York has a good draft this year, I think they could probably be an interesting team to play with. Seattle, I'm not too sure about. But Vancouver, I think they could be a monster to begin with. I think they could be a monster when it comes to the way they presented themselves at the expansion announcement. By the way, I'll leave links to the expansion announcements live stream for you to check out in the description of this episode. And yeah, I think we covered pretty much a lot of the PWHL. So just a quick check-in the MLB, as we are also a baseball setup show. Only a couple of games still probably left in play. Actually, no, there was only a few that are left in play right now. Actually, a few that are in play and 2 about to get started. The Mariners will take on the Guardians coming up in just a few moments at 9:40 p.m. Eastern. And the San Francisco Giants will be taking on the Dodgers in a battle for the NL East. Is that right? Is that right? Is that what they're battling for? The NL East? Is that right? Is that what they're battling for? I should say the NL West, excuse me. I mixed up divisions. The NL East belongs to the Philadelphia Phillies and the New York Mets. My bad. Anywho, what kind of scores we got going on? In an AL East matchup between the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, the Yankees trail the Red Sox 4-1 right now in the top of the 7th. Bottom of the 7th, the Padres leading the Diamondbacks 5-3. Diamondbacks will see the Blue Jays starting on Tuesday. But first, both teams will have to wrap up their series with the Padres and the Philadelphia Phillies. Speaking of the Philadelphia Phillies, once again, the Phillies defeat the Blue Jays 3-2 after they absolutely manhandled the Blue Jays 8-0. We need extra innings for the Rangers and the White Sox, and the Rangers come out on top 5-4. Speaking of teams getting manhandled, not too many big finals here. 8-5, the Cardinals beat the Brewers. The Rockies lost to the Braves 4-1. The Astros beat the Twins 3-2. Mets fell to the Rays 8-4. Because of that, the Blue Jays and the Rays are tied at a record of 38 and 32. And the Rays have, I believe, hopped the Blue Jays in the standings because of that. Royals getting knocked off by the Athletics. I was going to say they knocked off the Athletics, but they fell 4-0 to the Athletics. The Pirates fell 2-1 to the Cubs. 6-5 Orioles victors over the Halos, the Angels, or whatever you want to call them. The Halos, the Angels, I don't really care. The Reds absolutely destroy the Detroit Tigers, but the Tigers managed to get a run back and avoid being shut out 11-0. They get beat 11-1. The Nationals fall to the Marlins, and those are your final scores. Again, the ongoing games right now, bottom of the 7th and top of the 7th. It was 4-1, now it's 4-2. Red Sox and Yankees. It's 5-3 Padres over the Diamondbacks. And going into the warm-up right now is the Guardians and the Mariners. That game's set to go very, very shortly at about 9:40 p.m. Eastern is what I had. It could go at 9:30. We don't know. And then, of course, coming up at 10 p.m. Eastern, you've got the Dodgers and the Giants. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what's next time on Sports for Beginners? as I leave the floor open on the PWHL side to you, who do you think is going to get drafted by Minnesota, Toronto, Boston, New York, Ottawa, Montreal, and perhaps, I say perhaps, Seattle and Vancouver? Who do you think is going to get drafted? Who do you think? Personally, I don't know because I don't follow women's hockey too closely, but I think we're going to get some interesting names getting out of the draft as we go along. As for what's cooking next time on our show, you're going to find out about that next in about 30 seconds from now. We'll take a quick break for a word from our friends from Sienna T Radio and bring you the information about what's cooking next on Sports for Beginners as Season 4 continues, and we wrap up our show on the other side. First, we'll take a word from Sienna T Radio, and then wrap it up on that side. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
Hello? How are you, my friend? Why? What's the matter? Why feeling bored and lonely? Look at me. I am always happy. The only reason I can tell you it's because I listen to Sienna T Radio. All the best shows you can think of. The Melting Pot, the Cosmopolitan Culture Club, and the Song Bank. There are also many more new shows to come. Please make sure to visit her website at http://siennat.wordpress.com/siennat-radio. Oh, now I can hear you more cheerful. Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
Sienna T Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on Sienna T Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on Sienna T Radio.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Welcome back, everybody, to Sports for Beginners, episode 16 of season 4. We've talked about the Professional Women's Hockey League, but now it's time to close the book. Close the book? What do you mean, close the book? You're closing the show, right? Exactly. We're closing the show. We're not closing the book, like the book on the entire show. I mean, we're closing the episode on today. So to close things out here, what can you expect next time? Well, we've been in conversation with Ryan Talbot, so perhaps Ryan will join us on the program on Thursday for a Friday program. Could be a little double trouble. Double the Friday, episode 16, with myself here today for Saturday recording on June the 14th, 2025. And then we got Ryan in the studio probably on Thursday, June 19th, 2025. That will be our 17th episode. Hey, how fitting is that? Ryan's going to be on episode 17 of season 4. If we're able to make that happen, and we'll talk some Bills. Speaking of, I've been wearing a Bills sweater the entire recording. Okay, enough being enough being a smart butt. I'll just say enough being a smart aleck. There we go. Basically, we're going to be talking some Bills. We're talking panic meter. Well, there's something I forgot to talk about in this episode. You know what? It doesn't matter. Because the fact of the matter is, we're just closing things up here. Anyways, we will see where the situation with Ryan goes. But other than that, we'll keep things locked in with the PWHL, see how things go down at the Professional Women's Hockey League draft on June the 2025. I'm going to be reaching out to Erica or Rachel Donner of Locked On Women's Hockey Report. Check that out wherever you can find your favorite podcast. And of course, available right now on the Locked On NHL podcast. All you got to do is just search for Women's Hockey Report. Erica and Rachel on those shows cover everything from the Professional Women's Hockey League to the NCAA College Hockey League and more. Great show. Would love it if you took a second to check it out. We're also even a great show. We're also a great show. And hopefully you're checking us out as well. In case you missed it, last episode we talked about, as we were recording, we talked about Weekly in Sports reaching a milestone of 10 streams and downloads. Congratulations to Weekly in Sports on that milestone. We'll see what other milestones they can get before we celebrate 1 year officially of its podcast era. We've celebrated twice an anniversary of Sports for Beginners. We celebrated 2 years of Sports for Beginners. Now we're on to celebration number 3. Speaking of celebration number 3, submissions are now open. Submissions will be open for our August program. If you would like to be a guest on the show, it will be pre-recorded. It will not be live streamed. It will be pre-recorded. And we may use Zoom to do that for us. Or actually, we might use Riverside, which is what we're using right now. But whatever the case is, we are opening the floor to our listeners right now for you to get involved with everything going on with us. So we would love to hear from you, whether you connect with us on Discord, through the Facebook page, or through the email sportsforbeginners8231@gmail.com. Our anniversary show will take place some point in August, so keep your eyes peeled for that. More information will be made available as we roll through the month of July and into the first Friday of the month, which is August 1st, 2025. We will have a recording happen for you, hopefully, we'll see if we can get it done, on Thursday, July 31st, 2025, to have some great shows for you just before we get there. But a lot of great content still to come, so make sure you are subscribed. And speaking of that, that'll do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed our PWHL coverage. Hope you will check out the Women's Hockey Report on Locked On NHL. And with that said, I am Scott McGregor. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Sports for Beginners. This is 16th episode of Season 4. Thank you so much for being with us, whether it's a Saturday, Friday, whenever it may be. We're hoping that it will be Fridays eventually, and only Fridays, unless we're talking post-game, after a game, in which case those will be daily. But all the same, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me. I look forward to catching up with you all real soon, and again real soon. But with that being said, my name is Scott McGregor. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you all again real soon. My name is Scott McGregor. Love one another. We'll see you real soon, and see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at Sports for Beginners podcast 8231 at gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.